There's a new film out that we want to let you know about. It's called Love God's Will. A beautiful film has been made in honor of the life of Father Ryan Stawaisz. Father Ryan graduated from St. Mary's Seminary, and he served as a priest in the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, and he did so diligently despite being diagnosed with cancer. So, here's what's going on here for this particular program. We're going to give away some tickets for this new film, Love God's Will, Catholic film, right here made by local filmmakers. And if you want to have a chance to have a couple of tickets, we're going to give them away to some of our first callers. So here's what's going on. We're going to have a couple of showings that are coming up this Wednesday and Thursday at the Regal Cinemas, known as the Edwards Cinemas, on Wesleyan in Houston. We have a couple of showtimes, one this Wednesday at 6:30 and then Thursday at 6:30. So if you want a couple of tickets for free for Love God's Will, that's the film about Father Ryan, you can call in right now. It's at 877-757-9424. Again, if you want a couple tickets for the local film, 877-757-9424. Again, 877-757-9424. What you'll do is you call in and have a couple of options on what night you want to go there, and we'll get your information and put you on will call. So again, the name of the film is Love God's Will, and we're happy to be able to give away a couple of tickets to 4 callers for that movie as well. I want to dig a little bit deeper into this film, Love God's Will, and who Father Ryan is. And so that's why I'm honored right now to have here in our studio in Houston, Ray and Susan Stawaisz. They are Father Ryan's parents, and we appreciate their making the trip here to our studios all the way from Magnolia, Texas, if I'm thinking correctly. Ray and Susan, welcome into the program. We appreciate you guys being here. Tell me, I think this project, Love God's Will, about Father Ryan, was originally intended to be a short film here, again, made by local filmmakers. It ended up being a lot longer than just a short film. It's now 57 minutes in length. Tell me a little bit about what your impressions about the film was to see the final product and how it all turned out. What again, started as a small interview, small project.
Well, the Archdiocese of Father Richard McNeely had actually approached us over a year ago and said he just wanted a little clip to put on the vocations website.
Okay.
And as a result of that, he said, well, would you be open to having a film company, look into this? Just a small little thing. We said, sure.
Yeah.
And then after they ended up interviewing people from all the places where Ryan had worked, at St. Faustina and up at St. Anthony de Padua and at Prince of Peace, they couldn't squeeze it into anything less than 57 minutes.
Wow, that's amazing. And from what I understand, Susan, a lot of people who knew Father Ryan were willing to sit down and do interviews with the filmmakers. In some cases, not always solicited. They just put the camera up at people and say, hey, I want to talk about Father Ryan.
Absolutely. And Samilla, who's the executive producer of the film, she had actually ended up having to sign up geniuses. There were so many people who were calling the church offices saying, I want to be a part of this. And so she would set this up on several Sundays in the little bridal chapel off to the side, little bridal room, and set up all of their equipment and interview people, just one after the other after the other. And it went all day long for several weekends.
Okay, so the film itself has a lot of those interviews. People know Father Ryan, loved Father Ryan as well. But it's not just that. You guys had a lot of home movies as well. So my understanding is that Samela and Jesse, who are the filmmakers, had to sort through a lot of home videos. Tell me a little about what all you had of Father Ryan.
Years and years, 25 years of home movies. Everything from when he was young to high school, college. And I had not seen those for 25 years because I had filmed them on a dinosaur camcorder and, never really had them, changed over to any other type of media. And so that was a real gift for us to be able to actually see those for the first time when we were there March 2nd, watching these beautiful, beautiful films as even very young, praying with their dad.
Sure, very good. So Father Ryan was born in August of 1989. He went to be with the Lord in June of 2021. Ray, I want to ask you about your son. Did you think he always knew he had a calling for the priesthood? Did he always feel like he was close to God? How did that sort of evolve over time?
So as a youngster, we prayed as a family. But, as he states, until he went to college, Texas A&M, Whoop.
Got to get the shout
Which
out to the Aggies,
yeah, which
right?
I'm not an Aggie, but I'm
Right.
Anyway, so he said he started to gain a personal relationship with God, and he served on a Aggie Awakening, and he just felt called to that, and he had a first bout of cancer, which stopped him for a year from graduating as a petroleum engineer, and when he came back, when he was able to go back to school, he came in after he graduated, and he said, Dad, I think God's calling me for something else. And I kind of said, hey, I wasn't listening, I guess. He said, I said, son, just because you won this battle with cancer, I don't think God's calling you to give your life to the priesthood. And he said, no, Dad, it's not my decision.
Wow.
God called. God's calling me. So
yeah,
he that was it, and he just blasted forth.
and I imagine that was especially difficult for you guys, not just all the pressure of just him being able to go to the seminary and do all the duties that he had to do, and sort of the self-sacrifice that it takes to be a priest, but the fact that he was also battling cancer the whole time and still willing to do it.
That was just a part of his life. That didn't interfere. I mean, it slowed down certain things, but that wasn't a definition of who he was.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I want to read a quote from him that kind of stays with me a little bit. Father Ryan's quoted as saying, "Be open, be trusting. Though we may be wounded, God can accomplish his will through you. In our weakness, he becomes our strength. Learn to love God's will in your life." Susan, tell me, what kind of example do you think Father Ryan serves for us, as Catholics, as people go about our day to day? What are the lessons that we can take from his life, do you think?
Trust. Trust was the big one. When he was re-diagnosed with cancer just 6 weeks before ordination, he had approached several people. He was talking to his fellow seminarians about, the confusion of why it is this now? Why is this cancer back now? I'm just getting ready to start a new life in the priesthood. And it took him a little while, I think. He never discussed it really with us too much. Seminarians talked to us about this after he died, that he just said, I am going to keep going. I know what my job is. This isn't going to make a difference to me. I'm just going to continue what I'm doing. And I think his obedience to, he knew that no matter what he was going to do with the very next breath, with the very next hour, that it was going to be given to God. He was joining himself in suffering with Christ, trying to do reparation for souls, trying to be that priest, that he set out to be.
During, as I mentioned, they have the priest versus seminarians basketball game, and he had played at that, certainly when he was in the seminary, but then also when he was a priest as well. And last year's game was dedicated to him, and I know he's been mentioned before as well. What did that mean to you, Susan, that he was honored specifically?
I was blown away. Father Preston called me on the phone, and of course, he and Ryan had chatted about starting the priest versus seminary game as years ago. And for them to want to take this extra step, it wasn't only about dedicating it to him, calling it the Father Ryan Stawaisz priest versus seminarian basketball game, but he also had warm-ups made, and all of the players wore these warm-ups when they came out, and they all had Stawaisz on the back of the shirt, and they all had his number on it. And, Mama gets sentimental. And I just, you could feel the love, and to generate so much love, that was amazing to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Ray, I want to ask you just about being a parent because, again, having a son who passed away, I can only imagine is so difficult for any parent. But in this particular case, like I said, because he Father Ryan was so involved with the community, that sort of makes an interesting dynamic as well. For parents out there who might be going through a similar experience, they might have a son or a daughter who's been diagnosed with cancer. What advice do you have for parents out there when they might feel lost? Like I said, not all families necessarily prayed as much as you guys did with Father Ryan growing up. What advice, what would you tell those parents out there?
Well, Sue has had a number of battles with cancer as well. And Ryan and her kind of had a pact that, the definition of their life wasn't going to be a prognosis. And I think that, you live every day, you're in the moment, and God provides. There was never, there was anxiety over maybe not being able to contribute as much. But other than that, it is a life worth living.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you're just now joining us on the program, you're listening to Catholic Lunch Break. This is the program where we catch up with all things Catholic in the greater Houston area. This is Wyatt Goolsby, the executive director of this radio station. We're talking with Ray and Susan Stawaisz. Their son, Father Ryan, is the subject of a brand new local film. It's called Love God's Will, and we're very happy and honored to be able to give away some movie tickets for the two upcoming showings. We've got a couple that are coming on this Wednesday and this Thursday at the Regal Cinemas, Edward Cinemas on Wesleyan Street in Houston. So if you want to get a couple tickets to be able to go to one of those showings, call in right now. The phone number is 877-757-9424. Again, 877-757-9424. Call in and say you're interested in Love God's Will is the name of the film as well. And not only are they having it in Houston, but all over the greater Houston area within this month of March. They're having a number of showings at movie theaters. So be sure to look up Palomita Films for more on that. Before I let Ray and Susan Stawaisz go, I just want to ask you guys one more thought about the film and why people who are local should see it. Like I mentioned before, it turned out to be a little bit bigger film. It turned out to be 57 minutes when it was supposed to be a short one. What do you guys have any favorite parts of the film or parts that in particular stood out to you? And I'll let you guys both take a moment just to answer that.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say that the film is actually now going to be shown in San Antonio, also at Texas A&M. We're working on UT, and it's going to be at University of St. Thomas. We have some inquiries from Canada, one from Australia. So we're not real sure where this is going, Wyatt. I don't know. There's also a possibility of having a booth up at the Eucharistic Congress, somebody was suggesting. So we're just open to if anybody's interested in bringing it to your area. There is a place on palomitafilms.com where you can actually fill in your information, and somebody will reach out to you.
Okay.
As far as my favorite part, I think it is when, I'm not going to give it away altogether, but when you see them laying on the floor with their dad and they're praying, that's my favorite. That's absolutely my favorite. Oh, dancing in the kitchen's nice too.
Was that a home video?
Yeah, I hadn't seen it in such a long time. But the other thing is how beautifully Palomita Films wove Ryan's youth and how God preps us in our young age with practicing skills and things and how he uses them later on in life. They wove all that in to it beautifully.
Excellent. Ray, what about you? Any favorite parts? Or I guess there's so many parts that probably stand out in the film.
Yeah, I think a good part for me was watching some film, the way they tied in a basketball. You guys were actually, I think you guys were moderating the game, and you say, and there's Ryan coming down the court, and there's actually like a ditto when he was like 8 years old, and it switches from one to the other. and then when I think about the priest and the seminarian's basketball game, I think about how many confessions have to be heard after that game, because those guys play to win. And
they do.
It is a very, very just great game, I think. It's just, looking at priests and seminarians that are real people doing their best. So that to me was my favorite.
Amen. Very good. Well, again, we want to encourage people both to check out Love God's Will, as well as the Priest versus Seminarians basketball game, which again is Friday, April 19th, back at Rice University this year. Again, we're going to continue here on Catholic Lunch Break to offer some of those tickets for people who want to call in. Again, 877-757-9424. For now, we're going to take a break, but in the meantime, I just want to thank Ray and Susan Stawaisz for coming all the way in for our studio to talk about Love God's Will. Thank you both so much for joining us here on Catholic Lunch Break.
Thank you, Wyatt, for this opportunity. Thank you.
And we'll be right back after this break.